Next topic that Alex shared about, I'm going to share the screen again. If you are watching, boom. Number 2, few facts about protein. We all love a good protein. I'm going to zoom out so that we can see all of this.
Protein? Protein. I get those
protein,
confused.
not protein. But don't do that. Girls can have protein too. All right, so a few facts about protein. If you're listening, tune in. Here we go. Number 1, we need protein for nearly every metabolic activity because we lose small amounts of amino acids each day. We need to eat enough protein to keep protein turnover healthy. Second point.
Hey, do you want to go? Are we going through all 5, or do you want to just hit really quick one instead of like going back?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Let's do that. Let's hit number 1.
And this will be more like lightning round. I don't think we need to like go in depth on all 5.
No, we don't need to. But we don't need to pound on these.
First thing I want to clarify is we need protein for every metabolic activity. That's common language for exercise physiologists, but it's like, what the heck do you mean by metabolic activity? Metabolic or metabolism is simply just how your body uses energy. So any kind of physical movement is going to require energy, where our initial fuel source is carbohydrates, our long-term fuel source is fats, but protein is used in metabolism, is used when we use energy. So making sure that we are intentional with our protein intake with that, because we lose small amounts of amino acids. That is the essential building block of what proteins are broken down into. Big chains of amino acids make up what's called a protein molecule. We lose each of those because we use them so much. It's not just in our muscles. It's in all hormones. It's actually in every single cell that we have. So it's just making sure that we're eating enough protein for just life and activity.
Bingo. Y'all don't know you're about to get into some nutritional sciences today.
We're in organic chem today.
This is, yeah. Oof. I remember when Aaron took organic chemistry.
Did you ever take organic chem?
Nah, I took Chem 1 and Chem 2, but because I wasn't a science major, I didn't have to take OChem.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I'm glad. Number 2, all proteins are broken down into very small peptides or individual amino acids. Some of this protein is used in intestinal cells themselves. The rest goes to the liver for processing.
I mean, that's pretty much just a science sentence.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty straight. It's just the process in which proteins are broken down and where they go from a broken down standpoint.
And the purpose here, what's bolded, if you're just listening, is the rest goes to the liver for processing, where there is a myth out there, which there is validity, because can you eat too much protein? Yes. Can it be damaging to your liver? But I think a misconception of protein is eating 1 gram per pound of body weight is going to be damaging, affects your liver, where I think, for example, point number 3 just shows that people have varying levels of protein tolerance. So just because you're going to eat 150 grams of protein, I was on a coaching call with one of my guys, and he was talking about how, like, hey, we need to prioritize protein with how active, how much exercise. He's a little bit older, so he just needs to make sure he's getting this protein. And he was sharing it with one of his friends, who's like, oh my gosh, you're going to damage your liver, damage your liver, damage your liver. And he's like, my liver's fine. All my blood came back fine. And he has actual muscle mass up into his like upper 60s, rather than all of his friends are very limited in their physical activity. So there are misconceptions about protein and liver relationship, but there's a higher tolerance than what most people give for the thing.
It goes into the factor of the way that maybe you could call it big pharma, big food, or just marketing pushes different aspects of nutrition, mostly the macros, the carbs, the proteins, the fats, how they kind of demonize one. There's different groups of people that demonize carbs, demonize protein, demonize fat, mostly because they're probably trying to push an agenda. They're trying to push some sort of product or plan or whatever. And so we'll get into this down a little bit later in these points about protein, but there's a meta-analysis study that goes deep into what amount of protein does a person actually need. And for the overwhelming majority of people, they would benefit from getting 0.7 grams per pound of body weight up to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. That 0.7 to 1.2 range, what depends on that goes back to number 1, your metabolic activity. What type of movement and exercise you're doing. What are you training for? What does your lifestyle look like? What are your goals? So it comes down to that. So just what Alex said, eating protein will not destroy your liver. Okay. That's not going to happen. You're probably not going to eat enough protein to do that anyway. I'm just going to be honest with you, because it's just like that old adage of like, oh, I don't want to get bulky. Well,
you're probably not going to work out that much.
Bulky, man. You're not going to work out that much.
You're going to train that hard.
Nah. Anyways, number 3, many groups of people, the parentheses says athletes, need more protein to thrive and optimize key metabolic processes such as recovery and repair. Here's what I'll share on this one. Since I'm the more athletic of the two of us, is
and obviously more humble.
Hey, you said it, not me.
Get out of here.
Anyways, I think we both kind of fall into the same process or the same execution of this one. But if you exercise consistently and you're lifting weights, part of what happens is your muscles get broken down. And even if you're not lifting weights, if you're running or if you're doing some sort of exercise, what happens is your muscles are breaking down, and proteins, just like Alex was talking about earlier in these 1 and 2 points, are the building blocks for recovery and repairing those muscles that are broken down. And what happens is our body needs that protein post-exercise on a daily basis because it's being broken down. It's being torn apart, per se, and kind of broken down from a just easy understanding lens. And so for us to properly recover and to properly rebuild those muscles, we've got to be feeding our bodies protein to do that. And I actually would almost edit this point and say most people need more protein than they realize to thrive and optimize key metabolic protein. But this, when I mentioned that range, 0.7 and 1.2, athletes are going to be at the 1 to 1.2 range because
their demand.
They need more protein. There's a higher demand of protein for recovery and repair. It's a good point, Alex.
The only analogy.
Number 4.
Oh, no, let's just keep going. I mean, okay. I'll make this really quick. We have a machine here at our gym called the InBody machine that one of its measurements is your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. And there's other machines that will calculate that's simply how many calories your body's going to burn in a 24-hour period. That is baseline. That does not count how many calories you're going to burn in activity, exercise, all that stuff. The general recommendation.
If you woke up and you just lived.
I always say you wake up, you lay in bed and watch Netflix all day and don't move. For example, mine's probably like 2,100 calories a day just to maintain my current state, my heart, lungs, eyes, brain, all
internal
that
body systems.
Exactly.
Yep.
That does not take into account exercise, steps, movement, physical activity, hiking, all that stuff. That same analogy is with point number 3, where 0.7 to 1.2 is the range depending on your size, your gender, all that stuff. But if you are doing more demand, if you are breaking down your muscles more, you have a hard job, you're training twice a day, that demand is just now going to increase because that's the demand you're getting put on your body. So don't just go off of the baselines. Oh, hey, here's what textbook tells me. You need to be aware of, okay, what am I actually putting my body through? And I might need to adjust accordingly. We might need to go, rather than 0.9, we may need to go to 1.1 gram, which is why a coach can kind of help process and tinker with that a little bit. That's all I was going to say.
Come on. All right, we're going to do these last 2 and then move to point 3.
Let's go quick.
Number 4, protein helps us feel full longer. And then the parenthesis says, which helps people trying to lose weight. So here's what I would share here, as I absolutely love this point, is what protein does and why it's the most filling from a macronutrient standpoint. So carbs, proteins, fats. It's partially because protein reduces the level of the hunger hormone in your body, which is ghrelin. It also boosts basically some of the peptides in your body that help you feel full. So from those 2 perspectives, it decreases the hunger hormone and it increases those peptides in your body that help you feel full longer. And why this is valuable for those trying to lose weight, if you want to lose weight, it's a math equation. You need to be eating less than you're burning.
Move more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Eat less. Well, maybe you don't even have to move more. You can just eat less. Okay.
Sure.
But you could move more. It helps the equation. But when you are in a deficit, hunger is natural. You will be hungry at times. to help curb the hunger, eating an adequate amount of protein is going to help you do that because, again, it goes back to helping you feel fuller longer.
Yep.
Okay. And a little side note, protein is actually the hardest macronutrient for your body to break down, which is actually extra energy that it's burning to break down, which is a couple extra calories. Doesn't necessarily matter from a burning standpoint, but that's a fun fact.
Fun fact.
Number 5, the body thrives from a mixture of protein sources that occur naturally. And the bolded word here is mixture. Alex, hit this one.
I should have bolded naturally as well, because the main point of number
Yeah,
5 is we need to eat more than just chicken and rice. That's it.
Yep.
That there's so many vitamins
and whey protein
and whey protein and protein bars. I would say a lot of athletes just do those 3: chicken, protein shakes, protein bars. Where we're saying habit number 2, eat whole, clean, real foods. Whole, clean, real foods has a mixture of naturally occurring food sources, because what we want to prioritize is the micronutrient demand. And if we have a mixture of a lot of different whole, natural, clean food sources, we're going to get that micronutrient demand, which ultimately makes us feel better, which is why we're going to feel different after eating an apple, after eating Cheez-Its. An apple has so many more micronutrients, vitamins, mineral, antioxidants, that stuff, versus Cheez-Its. All of that is processed and refined down to just simple sugars that is just like a pixie stick in your gut, which is why occurring naturally, your chicken, your eggs, your steak, your sushi, your fish, all of these things, if you can have a vast array of that. You don't like sushi?
No, I do. I just think it's hilarious you threw sushi in as a protein source.
I meant to say shrimp, but I said sushi. I guess it has some protein in there.
Shrimp has a surprisingly low amount of protein.
Anyways, you're gonna feel better, and it's gonna be better for you. That's all we need to say.
Bingo. And I would actually say, before moving on to number 3 from the 3 and 30, is if you are struggling, if your stomach is struggling to digest this, and it's honestly like causing a lot of like bowel struggles, it's probably because there's not enough natural protein sources in your diet. If you're trying to get more protein and you're going straight towards the whey and the protein bars, then, and that's all that there is, that's probably going to upset your digestive system, which leads to just struggles with your bowels and using the bathroom. So I've run into that before and studied about it, and that was exactly what